Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Season 21, Story 3, Frontios. This is the penultimate story to feature Tegan, and it also gives Turlo a bit more character backstory. Well, I say character backstory, connecting to his homeworld with his planet and his people, connected with the villains. The story sees the Doctor, Tegan and Turlo arrive on this planet by accident. They're caught in what is supposedly a meteor strike, but it turns out to be bombardments at the planet towards the people. That is later revealed to be caused by creatures living underneath the surface of the planet. And the Doctor and his companions are originally mistaken to be enemies, but eventually accepted as friends, and they try to help each other out, sort of. Well, the Doctor and friends help out, although the Doctor says it is against the laws of time. But he's able to interfere just a little bit to stop the Tractators, the ones behind the plot, to eradicate the human settlers. Okay, let's get something straight out of the way. The Tractators do look like giant woodlouse. Yes, I admit it. They do look like giant woodlice. And this wouldn't be the last monster of the season that would look like a giant insect. We've still got the creatures from Twin Dilemma to come. But yes, we've got giant woodlice. Also, had Christopher H. Bidmead's script for the unmade Season 23 actually had gotten made on screen, these creatures would have been a returning monster for Doctors 5 and 6. The Hollows of Time, which I think would have been the penultimate story of the original Season 23. However, of course, we know that original Season 23 never got made. So, yeah, Big Finish have turned it into an audio, and I believe there was a novelisation of it out. So, yeah, so they sort of return in expanded media, but in terms of TV, they were originally going to return in The Hollows of Time, Season 23, Story 5. But because of Michael Grade, that never happened. And instead, Season 23 only had 4 stories, and we'll get more onto those when we get to those. But what they have here, they're actually pretty good creatures and villains for this story. They're actually quite interesting. Some good moments. And the Gravis is a pretty cool, pretty interesting villain. I was wondering, I haven't read or heard Hollows of Time, novelisation or the audio drama, but I was wondering maybe perhaps that story would have featured the Gravis from this story, and sometime later down the line on his new homeworld that he's dropped off at the end of the story, whether he's taken over that and the sequel story revolves around that story. But I can't comment on the Hollows of Time. I have not read or heard the novelisation or Big Finish versions, so I can't comment on that. But that was something I was thinking, maybe the Hollows of Time could have been a sequel to Frontios in that regard, as well as a return of these foes, but seeing a sequel from the Gravis' point of view. Yeah, I mean, the design does make him look like giant woodlice, but yeah, the design isn't that imaginative. However, one thing I will say in their defense is that they're able to actually voice dub these characters. The costumes look animatronic in the heads, or at least the actors can voice through the heads, or they've dubbed the voice afterwards, which is something I can't say for the Terrapils from the Visitation. If you see my review, you'll know what I mean. So I'll say that about the Tractators. At least we can understand what they're saying, and they have some pretty good emotions. They're pretty emotional characters. They're actually quite good. It's just a shame they look very much like woodlice. to draw the comparisons. But unlike the ones coming in Twin Dilemma, they're actually pretty good villains, so to speak, especially Gravis. As for our human characters, well, okay, it's a bit hot and cold. Whilst we got this really nice science guy and his daughter, they're pretty cool characters. We got the son of the previous leader, and he's a bit of a prick every now and again, but he's also okay in other times. He's actually quite good later on. His second in command is also a bit of a prick as well, until later on, and then he gets killed, sort of. There's also this guy who's around, and he then gets kicked out after trying to steal some food, and he almost gets sucked into the earth until the Doctor and Tegan distract the Tractator, and he comes back, and there's this whole subplot involving him and some rebels trying to do some shit in episodes 3 and 4, and it's pointless. It's pointless. I don't really care about that bit. I don't care about that bit. I want to focus on the Doctor and company sorting out the Tractators or trying to fix Frontios. I don't care about the outside people, whoever they are. I don't care about those. And what's worse, I have a sort of a personal self-rule, is that characters must either, you are going to be allies or friends or not enemies with the Doctor or company. They must trust them by the end of episode 1 of a story. If it's a 25-minute episode, if it's a 45-minute episode, then during the halfway point. And if it's for a single part new series story, then 15 to 20 minutes in. This is because them not trusting the Doctor, not liking him or her, all the companions, just them not really trusting them, kind of being a bit aggressive towards them. It can drag if it goes on too long. You side with them or you don't side with them. Don't take 50 to 100 minutes to decide. Do it within 25, or at the very most 30. So a little bit into episode 2. I have this personal rule where I think they should either side with the Doctor or decide that they're completely against them by 30 minutes into the story. Don't drag it beyond the end of episode 2. And they do sort of do that a little bit. It's a bit annoying that they carried on throughout episode 2. I mean, episode 1, I can kind of see where they're coming from, but episode 2, I think they should have realised by midway through episode 2, and it kind of got a bit annoying. And especially when there was some sort of distrust in episode 3 as well. There was a little bit of distrust, and I got fed up with it. And then this whole trial scene in part 3 for the science guy, because he's holding some information he started discovering. I don't care. This is not trial of the science officer. This is Frontios. Get on with Frontios. This story actually could have worked at 3 parts if it got rid of some of the pointless bits. Or at least filled those pointless stuff with actual proper stuff. Maybe some more backstory about Turlo's home planet. What we get is brilliant, but I think we've got to add a little bit more. At least to be more interesting than Trial of the Science Officer or the Outsiders trying to have their own subplot. I mean, these aren't major problems. They're just personal issues for me. They're just problems I have with the story, and it lets it down. Although I do like how the Doctor gives the people the ultimatum: trust us or kill us. Get on with it. And they say, "Oh, let's kill them." And he's like, "Oh, that's not how I expected." I actually like that reaction, although, again, it's at the start of episode 2, so you had an entire episode to do this. Thankfully, Turlo does kind of turn it on their heads when he threatens them with all the things in the world, or on this world. The coat stand from the TARDIS. That was the only thing that not got destroyed when the TARDIS was destroyed. Yeah, and actually having the TARDIS out of the story does raise a little bit of the threat. And it does help that when the TARDIS is reintroduced at the end of the story, it's how they can help defeat the villain in the end. So actually having the TARDIS taken out of the story is pretty interesting. It's the same with Impossible Planet Satan Pit. It's taken out the story so the characters feel stuck on this planet. They feel helpless, so they've got to help, even if they don't want to or have no choice. Maybe these people aren't so friendly around them. Certainly in this story, Impossible Planet Satan Pit, they were a lot nicer. And they stop the villain who's underneath the planet and try and solve everything, and then help the survivors escape. and in the end, they get the TARDIS back, and it either helps them solve the problem or it provides them with an escape route, which is really cool. So yeah, it's basically the Fifth Doctor version of Impossible Planet Satan Pit, but with less likable characters. Yeah, Impossible Planet Satan Pit can tick the more nicer characters box, as well as also the better villains as well, to be honest. I mean, yeah, you do look like squid creatures, but they're a bit more interestingly designed than giant woodlice. And the beast, wow, what a villain. But I'm not talking about that two-parter just yet. We'll get to that two-parter when we get to season 28, aka series 2. But first, we still got a few more classic series and The Wilderness Years and Christopher Eccleston's one and only series before that. But yeah, suffice to say, I will be looking forward to that story, though. There's not really much more I can say about this story, but yeah, but I do think it's a good story. I do have some personal issues. I think if the guys had made their minds up by the end of episode 1, or at least 5-10 minutes into episode 2, instead of having to go through most of episode 2 and bit into episode 3, and they keep then I think it would have been fine. If they made their minds up whether to trust the Doctor or not, and they kept going back and forth on those decisions throughout the first 2 episodes as well. It kept getting annoying. I know for characters, and I know for stories, sometimes this has to happen, but when you're going back and forth between, oh, okay, you're alright, actually, we don't like you, let's try and kill you, oh, hang on, you saved his life, actually, maybe you're alright. Still don't completely trust you, though, but maybe you're alright. Decide whether you like them or not. Decide whether you trust them or not. Decide whether you're going to side with them or not. Just pick something. Stop going back and forth. Like I said, I know for some stories this has to be a thing, but this story, they keep going back and forth between it. Might not have been so bad if they weren't doing back and forth. But I do like how it's a bit more of a threatening story, how it puts the characters in danger, and the villain's plot, okay. It's alright. Yeah, it's a good story. It's alright. I mean, there's not really much that's going to be exceptional. There's not really going to be much that's extraordinary. But it's good. It's okay. You could have a whole lot worse stories than this. And yeah, the main problems I do have with it are the guest characters minus the science officer and his daughter. They go back and forth between whether they trust the Doctor and companions or not, and it can get tedious. No, sorry, scratch that. It does get tedious. The villains do look like giant woodlice, and I think there should have been a bit more imagination to it. At least the Rachnos is more than just a giant spider, for example. The Jaduna more than just rhinos. And I'm sure there's a couple of classic monsters that look like insects or animals that are more than just animals. Yeah, the cheetah people. They're more than just cheetah people. There's actually a good concept behind them. These guys are just giant woodlice, but there's a good concept behind them. It's just that the design just looks very... this doesn't show that. And there's a few pointless subplots. In fact, that trial scene is even partly undertaken by a character who we've only just been introduced to, and doesn't serve any other point of the story apart from being this judge stand-in. Fuck me. Anyway, so to wrap this review off, Frontios is, it's good, but there's a few problems with it. There's a few issues that I have. There's not enough to tear it down, but I think it's enough to not hinder my enjoyment, but it kind of stagger it. Anyway, so I'm going to give Frontios a 7 out of 10. I did enjoy it, and I did like the story, and I thought it was good, but there are points of it that did stagger it and slow it down, and there are some points where I thought, you didn't need this. You really didn't need this. You could have had more stuff related to Turlo. That was really great. Or you could have more stuff with the Tractators. That was really good. But, but in the end, Frontios, it'll do. It's a good story. So, yeah, it's good. Oh, and before we forget, there's a really good cliffhanger at the very end where they got the TARDIS back. They're now flying through time and space. and then they get trapped in something whilst throwing it. They're flying a bit fast. They can't really control, and then they get trapped in something, which in the next story turns out to be a time corridor. And I actually got a bit excited and goosebumpy at the cliffhanger of this story, because I know what's coming next. I know what the next story is. I know what they're trapped in. It's the time corridor, and I know what's going to happen. So I shall see you guys next time for the Fifth Doctor's one and only Dalek story, and the first one since Destiny of the Daleks, Resurrection of the Daleks, which also sees the return of Davros, and for the first time played by Terry Malloy, and would become the regular returning actor to play Davros in both on-screen and expanded media. On-screen for the classic series, Julian Bleach for the new series, and in expanded media, especially the audios, I should say. So yeah, next time, Resurrection of the Daleks. And I shall be taking a look at both versions of the story available on the 2011 Special Edition DVD, part of the Revisitations 2 box set. And those are the two-part broadcast version of the story, which are 45 minutes in length. And it's that what's inspired Season 22 and the original Season 23 before that got changed. The length of those stories and the series, and sort of in a way kind of I suppose inspires the new series one, and also the original 4-part version that was originally prepared before they had to edit it into two 45-minute episodes due to the Winter Olympics coverage. They couldn't show the normal four 25-minute episode versions, so they had to do two 45-minute versions instead. But the original version is what you get on the 2002 DVD release, and thankfully both versions are available on this special edition, so we will be talking about those, both of those together. Anyway, so I'll see you guys next time for Resurrection of the Daleks, and I'm really looking forward to this one. And yes, the Daleks get much better dialogue in this story, or at least I hope they do. I mean, I have watched the story a few times, but I've got to rewatch it for the review. But I presume their voice... the dialogue is much better than Destiny of the Daleks. Anyway, I'll see you guys then. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'll start again. But a little interference doesn't help. So it doesn't, as opposed to just as well as just a return. If it's a new series, 45-minute episodes, a third to 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes through these stories, or even less time. So, and especially for the single part, at the very most 20 or at least 30. This is the complete opposite problem to The Awakening. Actually, The Awakening I think was Possible Planet Satan Pit is able to take the more likable characters, but yeah. Okay. But I do like the sense of. And I shall be taking a look at both the 2-part 45-minute versions that air. And I shall be taking a look at both broadcast 45-minute 2 minutes back. Which is inspired.